Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, Apollo Global, Blackstone, Carlyle, and KKR are the largest private equity firms in the world with trillions of dollars of combined deal flow and a lot more money to be able to make meaningful change. I'm pretty sure it's harder to operate a private equity firm than it is to be able to have a mid or large sized deal for any kind of law firm, no matter how important that is. The lens in which private equity law firms or private equity businesses look at deals is exactly why we need to be able to take a look at it as a portfolio, of which there are instances where these deals do well, these deals do poorly, which is exactly where difficult decisions need to be made. Because absent the ability to have financial and emotionless metrics which are dictated by meritocratic outcomes and the levers of capitalism, precisely allow them to be able to get out of a deal or get into a deal regardless of human emotion and things that can get in the way. That is the heart of our extension, wherein we're going to primarily talk about what supporting them looks like and how the industry can move and make a meaningful change towards that. It's not about whether one or the other is bad, as what opening sort of got into a deadlock about. I have a few strategic observations of the round thus far. The first is, opening government talks about how lawyers are busy and capital inflows is good. Opening opposition says, no, profit incentives are bad, being greedy is bad, and lawyers are benevolent because the metric that OO wants to have is to be able to have more pro bono cases. I think this misses the point to law firms and how they work and how private equity firms operate, because the incentive structure and the objective lens which they look at these things is exactly what's going to allow them to be able to make those decisions and be able to go into a market or get out of a market exactly at the point in which it stops being profitable. Meaning, if you really care about your pro bono cases, it's not like we're outcome dependent on lawyers wanting to pick it up, or hey, that managing partner was able to already buy his Rolex or second house. Now he's gonna go pro bono. But it's exactly because private equity firms also care about shit like ESG and perception that they're gonna start mandating portions of the budget and people to actually be able to take up that firms and those particular pro bono cases, as opposed to on your side, wherein it's an afterthought. The problem here is that there's just a huge path and outcome dependency on op for all of these things to go well. It assumes partners and managers aren't assholes. But hey, last time I checked, the likes of like Harvey Specter and stuff, all those classic Wall Street-esque lawyer guys, exactly become that very form of capitalism that opening opposition seems to have a problem with. Meaning, it's on their side wherein you have to demand these guys to be able to do well, to be able to take those pro bono incentives. On our side, we simply have a bigger budget and more money to literally make that happen. And it's exactly where a lot of these things are primarily driven by your ability to do things like meet quotas and be able to perform. And we think that the lens of being able to manage risk and be able to do the hard decisions like laying someone off, even if they were your buddy in Harvard, for instance, is exactly why the role of managing these things is also better done. Because we have to ask a very simple question. How many management partners do you have in a firm? 2, 3, 4, 5? Not a lot, right? Meaning it's only those who are at the top who tend to have the most opportunity. The Pearson Specter lit Hardmans of the world, the very people whose names are in the fucking door, who actually get the lion's share of profit sharing. Meaning, majority of people in the organization, those in the middle tier or in the lower tier, tend to be able to get boxed out and have a significantly harder time being able to climb out of that. What is the comparative? The comparative is that instead of these rich guys who went to Harvard who have money, who are trust fund babies, putting in mom and dad's money or their money in, you essentially have a soulless capitalist institution who literally is able to do that, who gives you more opportunity to be able to chase those pro bono dreams, etc., which essentially allow you to be able to do more things. You literally enable access for those people. The second thing I want to talk about is the path of victory of closing government. Meaning, the path of victory is quite simple. We think the decentralization of opportunity is exactly what is motivated when you look at things solely on a money-based perspective. It's exactly why they're profit-driven that actually serves as incentive for them to be able to actually perform, for them to actually fire that managing partner who started the firm if he starts slacking off and doing drugs and getting into things like prostitution or causing some sort of big scandal. Before that, go for it. Opening up. What's your POI?
If your argument is that soulless, heartless capitalists are more qualified to run a law firm than lawyers itself, let me remind you that Boeing failed because they stopped engineers from running the company and had like MBA people running the company. Why are private equity firms more qualified to run a law firm?
No, because Boeing failed because a lot of planes got fucked and they weren't able to change parts. That wasn't necessarily the fault of private equity. That's a fault of mismanaged expectation on their side. It's exactly the point in which private equity comes in, wherein they're able to adjust to market-based expectations, meaning it's not just overly simplistic as, oh, profit maximalization, let's make people die, but being able to make the trade-off. It's exactly what you said about wanting to be able to exit at the point in which they're able to understand early stage, mid stage, and late stage exits depending where we are in the particular environment. Meaning, it's exactly at the point in which you're a law firm that maybe exits are likely on the latter stage opportunities, which provide a larger term to be able to grow your people working there, as opposed to in status quo where it's exactly the back of those rich people who are getting more deals and the only ones who are able to fatten their check until they're like geriatric and old, and the people who have worked there for so long get the scraps of what they earn. On our side, it's more meritocratic. The third and most important is the precedent this sets for future lawyers and the people trying to study law. And this is the nuance to the mechanization of how it actually works in terms of the period. Meaning, currently, you essentially push them to be able to rise above when they're able to take tasks outside their comfort zone and not be too intimidated by those old guys whose names are in the door. New lawyers are also able to have more choices and not just want to kill themselves and stuff because, oh, I didn't get into ABC law firm because I had to be a Harvard graduate or a Stanford graduate to be able to get there. Ultimately, on our side, we decentralize these access to opportunities and create a more meritocratic-based incentive structure, primarily driven on capitalism. We are very proud to stand on side proposition.